The mysterious arrival, the massive space fortress called Terminus Prime, floated in the darkness like a metal planet. For 3,000 years, no enemy had ever broken through its defenses. The fortress was home to millions of Vulcan warriors and their families. Giant cannons covered every surface, each one powerful enough to destroy entire cities. Admiral Crete H stood on the observation deck of the command center. His 4 eyes watched the stars through the thick glass windows. The Vulcan Empire controlled 47 different star systems, and this fortress protected them all. Nothing could get past Terminus Prime without permission. "Sir, we are seeing something strange on our sensors," said Lieutenant Vexara. She was young for a Vulcan officer, but very skilled at reading the sensor displays. Her 4 eyes moved quickly between different screens. "What kind of strange?" Creeth asked. He had been a military officer for over 200 years. In that time, he had seen many unusual things in space. Most of them turned out to be harmless. "There is a distortion in space about 10,000 kilometers from our outer boundary," Vexara reported. "It looks like space itself is bending and twisting." Creeth walked over to look at the sensor readings himself. The display showed ripples in empty space, like waves on water. But space was supposed to be empty. Nothing should be able to create such distortions. "Send Patrol Squadron 7 to investigate," he ordered. "Tell them to be careful and report back immediately." The minutes passed slowly as the patrol ships moved toward the strange distortion. The ripples in space grew larger and more violent. The fortress sensors had never recorded anything like this before. "Admiral, the distortion is getting much bigger," Vexara called out. "Something is definitely coming through." Suddenly, space around the distortion exploded with bright blue light. The sensors went blind for several seconds. When they cleared, a massive ship hung in the void where empty space had been moments before. Creeth stared at the unknown vessel in shock. It was huge, easily as large as their biggest warships. But it looked completely different from any ship in their databases. Where Vulcan ships were dark and covered with spikes, this ship was smooth and bright. Strange symbols flowed across its hull like liquid metal. "What is that thing?" Crete H demanded. "I've never seen anything like it," Vexara replied. "It does not match any known ship design. The symbols on its hull are not in our translation databases." Communications Officer Zilmuth tried to contact the mysterious ship. "Sir, they are not responding to our signals. In fact, our sensors can barely detect them at all. We can see the ship with our eyes, but most of our equipment acts like it is not there." This was impossible. The fortress had the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. They could detect a small asteroid from 1,000,000 kilometers away. How could something so large be nearly invisible to their equipment? "Raise our shields to maximum power," Crete H ordered. "Charge all weapon systems. If they will not identify themselves, we will force them to respond." The fortress weapons began to power up. Thousands of cannons turned toward the strange ship. Each weapon was powerful enough to crack the surface of a planet. Together, they represented the greatest concentration of firepower in the known galaxy. The alien ship remained perfectly still, showed no signs of raising shields or powering weapons. Either the crew was incredibly brave, or they had no idea what they were facing. Inside the mysterious vessel, Captain Lee Dong-wook studied the alien fortress through his advanced sensors. The HSS Indomitable had just completed its first jump. Using humanity's newest technology, the quantum displacement drive had worked perfectly. But they had arrived right in front of a heavily armed military installation. "Captain, we are receiving multiple signals from the alien station," reported Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin. "The computer is trying to translate their language, but it is very difficult. They seem angry about our arrival." Dong-wook nodded. The Indomitable was humanity's first true battleship, built using 50 years of experience fighting hostile aliens. Unlike the desperate defense fleets of the early wars, this ship was designed to take the fight to humanity's enemies. "Can they detect our stealth systems?" he asked. "No, sir. Their sensor beams are passing right through us. As far as they know, we are just a big piece of metal floating in space." The captain smiled slightly. Humanity's greatest advantage had always been their ability to think differently from their enemies. while other species relied on brute force. Humans had learned to be clever and use their opponents' assumptions against them. "Prepare all weapons," Dong-wook ordered. "If they want to fight, we will show them what human technology can do." Back on the fortress, Admiral Crete H was growing impatient. The alien ship had been sitting motionless for several minutes, completely ignoring their demands for identification. "Sir, the alien vessel is beginning to move," reported sensor operator Nexula. "It is approaching our defense perimeter at a steady speed." "Fire warning shots," Kreeth commanded. "Use the smaller cannons to bracket their position. It should convince them to stop." The fortress weapons fired in perfect coordination. Dozens of plasma bolts streaked across space toward the mysterious ship. Each bolt carried enough energy to vaporize a small moon. The shots were deliberately aimed to miss, but the message was clear. The alien ship continued forward without slowing down. "Direct hits on target," announced Gunnery Chief Mordok. Then his voice changed to confusion. "Wait, that cannot be right. Shots are passing through them like they are not there." On the tactical display, the plasma bolts continued past the alien ship as if nothing was in their path. The mysterious vessel kept coming, apparently unaffected by weapons that should have turned it into glowing gas. "Some kind of defensive technology," Crete H said, though he sounded less certain than before. "Increase firepower to secondary batteries. Whatever trick they are using, enough concentrated fire will break through it." The fortress unleashed a devastating barrage of energy beams and solid projectiles. The alien ship sailed through the attack like a ghost, completely unharmed by the Empire's most powerful weapons. Inside the Indomitable, Captain Dong-wook watched the alien weapons pass harmlessly through his ship's quantum displacement field. The technology was still new, allowing the battleship to exist slightly outside normal space. To observers, the ship looked solid, but energy and matter passed through it without effect. "How long can we maintain the phase shift?" he asked Chief Engineer Park Min-ho. "About 15 minutes at current power levels," Park replied. "That we need to return to normal space to recharge the quantum systems." Dong-wook nodded. 15 minutes would be plenty of time to get close to the alien fortress. The Indomitable's weapons were designed for close-range combat, using humanity's mastery of directed energy and exotic matter. "What are the fortress weaknesses?" he asked. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Ji-hai studied the tactical display. Standard fixed defenses, overlapping fields of fire, multiple shield generators. Classic fortress design focused on raw power instead of flexibility. Perfect. They are thinking like traditional space warfare. Long-range bombardment, attrition tactics. They are not ready for a single ship to get close and personal. The Indomitable continued its approach, now close enough for detailed visual observation. The alien fortress continued firing, but their weapons had no effect on the ghostly human. "Ship, prepare the main guns," Dong-wook ordered. "Target their primary shield generators. It's time to show them what human engineering can accomplish." The Fortress Falls, the weapons of Terminus Prime represented the best military technology the Valkan Empire had ever created. Each massive cannon could destroy a small moon with a single shot. The shield generators could stop the combined attack of an entire enemy fleet. Point defense systems could shoot down missiles traveling at nearly the speed of light. Admiral Kreeth felt confident as he watched his weapons target the mysterious alien ship. The fortress had been built using technology stolen from dozens of conquered worlds. No single vessel, no matter how advanced, could hope to challenge such overwhelming firepower. "Sir, the alien ship is now entering our primary weapons range," reported sensor operator Nexula. "All gun batteries are locked onto the target." "Open fire with everything we have," Crete H commanded. "Show these aliens what happens when they challenge the Valkan Empire." The fortress erupted in a display of devastating power. Thousands of plasma cannons fired at once, filling space with deadly energy. The combined firepower could have reduced an entire city to ash in seconds. The alien ship continued its approach, completely unaffected by the barrage. "This is impossible," muttered Gunnery Chief Mordok. "Our weapons are passing through them, like they are made of air." "Keep firing," Crete H ordered, though doubt crept into his voice. "Whatever technology they are using must have limits. we will find those limits. The fortress weapons continued their relentless attack. Energy beams and solid projectiles filled the space around the alien vessel, but nothing seemed to have any effect on the mysterious ship inside the Indomitable. Captain Dongwook monitored the alien attack with professional interest. The enemy weapons were powerful but predictable. They relied on overwhelming force rather than precision or innovation. "How much longer can we maintain the phase shift?" he asked. "About 5 more minutes," replied Chief Engineer Park Minho. "After that, we need to drop back into normal space. It's perfect timing. We should be in optimal firing position by then." The Indomitable continued its ghostly approach toward the massive fortress. The alien installation grew larger and larger on the main screen. Soon, individual weapon emplacements were visible on the fortress surface. "Target analysis complete," reported Lieutenant Commander Yoon Ji-hai. "I have identified the primary shield generators, power distribution centers, and communication arrays." "Excellent. Prepare to drop out of phase shift. All weapons to maximum power." The human battleship suddenly flickered and became solid again. For a moment, the alien gunners focused all their fire on the no-vulnerable target. But Captain Dongwook had already begun his attack. "Fire main battery," he ordered. The Indomitable's primary weapons were unlike anything the Valken had ever seen. Instead of trying to overwhelm enemy defenses with brute force, the human guns used quantum resonance to disrupt. Shield generators at the molecular level. The first salvo struck the fortress shields with surgical precision, a massive defensive. Barriers began to flicker and fail as the human weapons unraveled their quantum structure. "Shields are failing," reported Lieutenant Vexera in alarm. The alien weapons are somehow breaking down our defensive matrix." Admiral Kreeth watched in horror as sections of their supposedly impenetrable shields began to collapse. The aliens were not trying to smash through their defenses. They were dissolving them from the inside out. "All weapons concentrate fire." On that ship, he commanded desperately. The fortress cannons swiveled toward the Indomitable, unleashing a concentrated barrage that would have destroyed an entire fleet. But the human ship rolled gracefully out of the way, its advanced engines providing incredible maneuverability for such a large vessel. "Secondary targets locked," announced Lieutenant Commander Yoon. "Targeting weapons, control centers, and power distribution nodes." The Indomitable's smaller weapons came online. These guns used focused particle beams that could cut through armor by disrupting molecular bonds. Each shot was precisely aimed at critical systems. The effect was immediate and devastating. Entire sections of the fortress went dark as power. Lines were severed. Weapon systems fell silent as their control circuits were destroyed. The coordinated defensive fire began to fragment into individual poorly aimed attacks. "Now, sir, we have lost contact with gun batteries 7 through 12, reported Gunnery Chief Mordok. "The aliens are targeting our most important systems." "Oh, do they know where to hit us?" Creed H demanded. "Our fortress layout is classified at the highest level." The answer came from Communications Officer Zilmuth, who had been monitoring the alien transmissions. "Admiral, they are not guessing. They're scanning our installation in real time, analyzing our systems faster than our own computers." The revelation was terrifying. The Valken Empire had always relied on superior technology and overwhelming firepower. The idea that an enemy could simply analyze their defenses and find weaknesses instantly was beyond their understanding. "Captain." Dongwook studied the tactical display as his ship systematically dismantled the alien fortress. The enemy's defensive philosophy was exactly what humanity had expected. Massive, powerful, but ultimately inflexible. "All systems operating normally," reported Chief Engineer Park. "Quantum displacement drive is fully recharged and ready for another phase shift." "Excellent. Prepare for close-range engagement." Indomitable accelerated toward the fortress, its hull gleaming under the light of nearby stars. The alien installation continued firing, but their shots were becoming increasingly desperate and uncoordinated. "Captain, we are receiving surrender requests from multiple sections of the fortress," reported Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin. "They are asking for terms." Dongwook considered the situation. The mission had been primarily to test humanity's new technologies. Against potential enemies, the battle had already provided valuable intelligence about alien military capabilities. However, the aliens had fired first. In the complex world of interstellar politics, allowing such aggression to go unpunished would be seen as weakness. Other species might view humanity as an easy target. "Open a channel to the Fortress Command Center," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the alien command center. Strange creatures with 4 eyes and multiple arms stared back at him. The universal translator quickly established a basic communication protocol. "This is Captain Lee Dong-wook of the Human Space Navy," he announced. "You have 10 seconds to surrender your installation and withdraw all military forces from this system. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your fortress." The transmission ended, leaving the alien command center in stunned silence. Admiral Kreith stared at the blank screen in disbelief. A single ship was demanding the surrender of the most powerful fortress in the galaxy. The audacity was beyond comprehension. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Lieutenant Vexara. Kreith looked at the tactical display. Half their weapons were offline. Their shields were failing. The power grid was damaged beyond quick repair. The alien ship hung in space like a predator, waiting for his response. "Send a reply," he said finally. "Tell them we will consider their terms if they cease their attack." The human captain's response came back immediately. "Your 10 seconds are up." The Indomitable's main guns fired again, this time targeting the fortress's remaining shield generators. The massive defensive barriers collapsed completely, leaving the installation vulnerable to direct attack. "Sir, we have no choice," said Lieutenant Vexara quietly. "We cannot defend against their weapons." Admiral Kreith closed his 4 eyes. In defeat, in over 2 centuries of military service, he had never surrendered to an enemy. But he had never faced an enemy like this before. "Signal all stations," he ordered. "Prepare to surrender. Order the fleet to stand down and withdraw from the system." The words tasted like poison in his mouth, but he knew they were necessary. The alien ship had demonstrated that it could destroy the fortress at will. Continued resistance would only result in the deaths of millions of Valkan civilians. "This is Admiral Kreith of the Valkan Empire." He broadcast on all frequencies. "We accept your terms. All military forces will withdraw immediately. We request that you cease your attack." The human ship's weapons fell silent. The battle for Terminus Prime was over. For the first time in 3,000 years, the greatest fortress in the galaxy had fallen to an enemy. And it had fallen too. A single ship that had appeared from nowhere. The implications would shake the Valkan Empire to its core. The fleet arrives. The surrender of Terminus Prime sent shockwaves through the Valkan Empire faster than light itself. Within hours, emergency communications reached every major world in their territory. The impossible had happened. Their greatest fortress had fallen to a single alien ship. Admiral Kreith H. stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Void Render, as it prepared to leave the system. The massive dreadnought had been his home for over 50 years, but now it felt like a prison. The taste of defeat was bitter in his mouth. "Sir, High Command is demanding a full report," said his communications officer. "They want to know how one alien ship defeated our entire defensive grid." Kreith's secondary arms clenched into fists. How could he explain that their enemy had simply ignored their weapons? That centuries of military advancement had been rendered useless by alien technology they could not understand. "Tell High Command that we encountered a new species with capabilities far beyond our current knowledge," he replied. "Recommend immediate intelligence gathering and technological analysis. We need to understand what we are facing." The truth was more disturbing than simple defeat. The aliens had not overpowered the Valkan defenses. They had analyzed them, understood them, and systematically dismantled them with surgical precision. It suggested a level of technological advancement that challenged everything the Empire believed about warfare. Aboard the Indomitable, Captain Dong-wook supervised the detailed scanning of the abandoned fortress. The alien installation was a treasure trove of intelligence about their technology, military doctrine, and strategic capabilities. What have we learned about their weapons? He asked the science officer, Dr. Choi Hai-jin. Very interesting, sir. They focus entirely on raw power output rather than efficiency or precision. Their approach is effective against conventional defenses, but vulnerable to adaptive countermeasures. Dong-wook nodded. The battle had confirmed humanity's strategic assessments. Most alien species relied on overwhelming force rather than tactical flexibility. It was a mindset that humans, with their history of creative problem-solving, were uniquely equipped to exploit. Analysis of their defensive systems, powerful but inflexible, they are designed to create an impenetrable barrier rather than adapt to changing threats. Once we identified the harmonic frequency of their shields, disrupting them was relatively simple. The captain reviewed the tactical recordings from the engagement. The aliens had fought bravely, but their military doctrine was based on outdated assumptions. They expected enemies to engage at maximum range, trading fire until one side was overwhelmed. Any damage to our systems? Minimal, sir. A few scratches on the outer hull, but nothing that affects our operational capability. The phase displacement system worked perfectly. Dong-wook felt satisfied with the results. The Indomitable represented humanity's commitment to technological superiority over numerical advantage. While other species built massive fleets, humans developed smaller numbers of highly advanced ships. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting multiple contacts approaching the system, reported Lieutenant Commander Yoon Ji-hai. Configuration suggests a Vulcan fleet, approximately 20 vessels. The captain studied the tactical display. The approaching fleet was substantial, probably dispatched when the fortress first reported contact with an unknown vessel. Their arrival presented an interesting situation. Time to intercept? 6 hours at their current velocity? Dong-wook considered his options. The Indomitable could easily escape using its displacement drive, but running would diminish the psychological impact of their victory. However, engaging an entire fleet would be significantly more dangerous than attacking a fixed installation. Prepare a transmission for the approaching fleet, he ordered. Inform them that this system is now under human protection. Any attempt to establish military installations will be met with appropriate force. The message was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring every ship in the fleet would receive it. The response came back quickly, filled with threats and demands. For immediate surrender? Predictable, Dong-wook muttered. They still do not understand what they are dealing with. In the depths of space, the Vulcan reinforcement fleet continued toward Terminus Prime. Fleet commander Diekmer had been ordered to retake the system and capture the alien vessel responsible for humiliating the Empire. Sir, we are receiving transmissions from the alien ship, reported his communications officer. They are demanding that we withdraw from the system. Diekmer's laugh was harsh. 1 ship against 20. Their arrogance will be their destruction. All vessels, prepare for battle formation. The fleet began to spread out, adopting an engagement formation refined through decades of conquest. It was a maneuver they had practiced countless times against inferior opponents. Sir, our sensors are having difficulty maintaining a lock-on. The alien vessel, reported the sensor operator. It appears to be flickering between solid and intangible states. Diekmer studied the tactical display with growing concern. The mysterious ship was repeating the same impossible trick that had allowed it to defeat the fortress. Whatever technology they possessed was unlike anything in the Empire's databases. Deploy sensor drones and establish overlapping detection. Grids, he ordered. If they try to use that phase technology, I want to know immediately. The fleet continued its approach, unaware that their every move was being monitored by sensors far more advanced than anything they possessed. The Indomitable hung in space like a patient predator, waiting for the optimal moment to strike. Sir, we are now within extreme weapons range, reported the tactical officer aboard Diekmer's flagship. All vessels report ready for engagement. Felt confident in his numerical superiority. 20 of the Empire's finest warships against a single alien vessel seemed like overwhelming odds. Regardless of their advanced technology, open fire with long-range batteries, he commanded. Let us see how their phase technology handles a full fleet bombardment. 20 Valkan warships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with a devastating display of coordinated firepower. The combined attack was sufficient to reduce a small moon to debris, yet the alien ship remained untouched as weapons passed through its hull. "Continue firing," Zeekmer ordered, though doubt crept into his voice. "They cannot maintain that state indefinitely." Aboard the Indomitable, Captain Dongwook watched the alien fleet's attack with professional interest. Their coordination was impressive, but their tactics remained predictable. They were still thinking in terms of conventional space warfare. "How long until they reach optimal range?" he asked. "Approximately 10 minutes, sir." "The alien fleet is maintaining standard formation, making no attempt to adapt to our phase technology?" Dongwook nodded. The enemy's rigid adherence to doctrine was both their strength and weakness. It allowed them to coordinate large fleets effectively, but made them predictable to opponents who understood their thinking. "Prepare to terminate. Phase shift," he ordered. "All weapons to full power. Time to demonstrate the futility of their position." The Indomitable suddenly snapped back into normal space, its displacement field collapsing as the ship's weapons drew power. The alien fleet immediately concentrated their fire on the now solid target. "Evasive maneuvers," Dongwook commanded. "Full acceleration toward the enemy fleet." The human battleship leaped forward with startling speed, its advanced propulsion providing acceleration the Valkan ships could not match. Instead of trying to engage the entire fleet, the Indomitable aimed directly for the center of their formation. "Sir, the alien ship is heading straight for us," reported the tactical officer. "On Zeekmer's flagship. They will be within close combat range in less than 2 minutes." Zeekmer felt confusion. Standard fleet doctrine called for ships to maintain maximum distance while exchanging fire. Deliberately closing to night fighting range was tactical suicide. He ordered, "Do not allow them to close within optimal firing range," but the Indomitable was already moving too fast. Superior acceleration, allowing it to close the distance, despite the fleet's attempts to maintain separation. The human ship moved between incoming fire with impossible agility. "Target their flagship," Dongwook ordered. "Full power to main battery." The Indomitable's weapons fired at point-blank range, their enhanced plasma beams striking the Valkan flagship's shields with devastating effect. The alien defenses, designed for long-range fleet engagements, were not prepared for such concentrated close-range fire. Fleet Commander Zeekmer watched his flagship's shields collapse under the alien assault. The mysterious weapons seemed to eat through their barriers like acid, leaving his ship exposed to direct attack. "All ships, concentrate fire on the alien vessel," he commanded desperately, but the Indomitable was already moving to its next target, its maneuverability allowing it to stay ahead of the alien gunners. The human ship flowed through the fleet like water, each movement calculated to avoid incoming fire while positioning for the next attack. The battle had begun in earnest, and the outcome was far from certain. The fleet's defeat the space around Terminus Prime became a battlefield unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. 20 massive Valkan warships, each one capable of destroying planets, faced off against a single human vessel that defied all known laws of physics and warfare. Fleet Commander Zeekmer watched his tactical display with growing desperation. His flagship's shields had already collapsed under the alien attack, and the mysterious enemy ship was moving toward its next target with impossible speed and agility. "Sir, the alien vessel is engaging the heavy cruiser Darkness Falls," reported his tactical officer. "They are using the same weapons that disabled our shields." Zeekmer could see the battle unfolding on his screens. The human ship moved like a living thing, rolling and weaving between the concentrated fire of multiple Valkan vessels. Its weapons fired with surgical precision, each shot carefully aimed at critical systems. "How are they moving so fast?" he demanded. "No ship that size should be able to maneuver like a fighter craft." "Unknown, sir. Their propulsion technology appears to be far more advanced than our own." The Indomitable rolled away from a barrage of plasma fire, its hull gleaming. As it caught the light from nearby stars, the ship's movements were graceful and fluid, like a dancer performing a deadly ballet among the slower Valkan vessels. Secondary target acquired, announced Lieutenant Commander Yoon from the human ship's bridge. Valkan heavy cruiser. Shields already weakened from our previous pass. Captain Dong-wook nodded. Engage with secondary battery. Disable their weapons and propulsion systems. The Indomitable's smaller guns opened fire, their particle beams punching through the alien cruiser's weakened defenses. Shuddered. Under the impact, its armor glowing white-hot as the human weapons carved through its hull. "Sir, we are losing ships," reported the tactical officer on Zekmer's flagship. "The aliens are not trying to destroy us. They're systematically disabling our ability to fight." Zekmer began to understand the enemy's strategy. Instead of trying to annihilate the entire fleet, they were methodically crippling each ship's weapons and engines. It was a tactic that required incredible precision and confidence. "All ships converge on the alien vessel," he ordered. "If we can surround them, we can overwhelm their defenses with crossfire." The remaining Valkan ships began to maneuver, attempting to trap the human battleship between multiple firing positions. But Captain Dong-wook had anticipated this move. "Phase shift in 10 seconds," he commanded. The Indomitable suddenly flickered back into its ghostly state, becoming intangible just as the Valkan crossfire reached its position. The alien weapons passed harmlessly through the ship's hull, some of them striking other Valkan vessels that had been positioned on the opposite side. "Impossible," Zekmer breathed. "They can control that technology at will." The answer lay in humanity's approach to military science. While the Valkan focused on building bigger and more powerful weapons, humans concentrated on developing systems that could adapt to changing battlefield conditions. "Sir, the alien ship is transmitting." "Again," reported the communications officer. The main screen showed the same human captain who had defeated their fortress. His expression remained calm and professional, as if discussing routine operations rather than a desperate battle. "This is your final warning," Captain Dong-wook said. "Surrender immediately or face the complete destruction of your fleet. Have 60 seconds to respond." The transmission ended, leaving Zekmer's bridge in stunned silence. Around them, the fleet was in chaos. Half their ships had been disabled, their formation was broken, and their enemy could become intangible at will. "Sir, orders?" asked the tactical officer. Zekmer looked at the tactical display, seeing the hopelessness of their situation. Alien ship had demonstrated that it could destroy his fleet whenever it chose. The fact that they had disabled rather than destroyed his ships was a message of power, not mercy. "Signal the fleet to stand down," he said, the words bitter in his mouth. "We surrender." The order went out on all frequencies, and one by one, the Valkan warships powered down their weapons. The great fleet that had been sent to reclaim their lost territory now floated helplessly in space, defeated by a single enemy vessel. Captain Dong-wook accepted the surrender with quiet satisfaction. The engagement had provided valuable intelligence about alien fleet tactics while demonstrating human technological superiority. More importantly, it had sent a clear message to the Valkan Empire. "Begin rescue operations," he ordered. "Take aboard survivors from the damaged vessels. Provide medical assistance as needed." The Indomitable moved through the disabled fleet, its crew working to save alien lives even after the battle. It was a gesture that would be remembered by the Valkan survivors, a sign that humans could be merciful as well as deadly. "Sir, we are detecting multiple escape pods from the damaged ships," reported Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin. "Approximately 300 alien survivors requiring assistance. Beam them aboard," Dong-wook commanded. "Have medical prepare to treat alien physiology. Dr. Choi will want to study their biological systems." The human ship's advanced transporters made quick work of the rescue operation. Soon, the Indomitable's medical bay was filled with injured Valkan personnel. Receiving treatment from human doctors who had never seen their species before, Dr. Choi Haijin worked alongside the alien medical officers, sharing knowledge and techniques across species barriers. The Valken were surprised by the humans' willingness to help their former enemies. "Captain, the alien medical officer has been very cooperative," Dr. Choi reported. "I have learned much about their physiology and medical technology. They seem genuinely grateful for our assistance." "Good. What about intelligence gathering? Commander Nam has been interviewing the prisoners." "The Valken Empire appears to be a military dictatorship with more advanced technology than we initially estimated. However, their tactical thinking is very rigid and predictable." Dong-wook nodded. The aliens had fought bravely, but their military doctrine was based on overwhelming force rather than innovation. They were unprepared for enemies who could adapt quickly to changing conditions. "Prepare a full report for Earth Command," he ordered. "Include tactical analysis, intelligence assessments, and recommendations for future contact. We have just made first contact with a major galactic power. The implications of the engagement were enormous. Humanity had announced its presence too. The galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. By defeating a superior force through technological advantage and tactical superiority." "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting more Valken ships approaching," reported Lieutenant Commander Yoon. "Multiple squadrons converging on our position from different directions." Dong-wook studied the tactical display. The approaching forces were substantial, probably representing a significant portion of the Empire's military strength. The aliens were clearly taking the threat seriously. "How many ships total?" "Approximately 60 vessels, sir. They will arrive in waves over the next 12 hours. The captain considered the situation. The Indomitable had proven it could defeat individual fleets, but engaging multiple waves of enemies would be much more challenging. The ship systems, while advanced, were not unlimited. "Prepare a message for the approaching fleets," he ordered. "Inform them that this system is now under human protection. Any attempt to establish military installations or threaten civilian populations will be met with appropriate force." The message was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that every Valken commander would receive it. The response came back quickly, filled with threats and demands for immediate surrender. "They are not learning," Dong-wook observed. "Perhaps they need another demonstration." The battle for control of the system was far from over. The Valken Empire was mobilizing its full military might, and humanity would need to decide how far they were willing to go to defend their new position in the galaxy. The fate of both species might depend on the decisions made in the next few hours. The Empire responds. The news of the fleet's defeat reached the Valken capital world within hours. Transmitted by emergency hyperspace communication. Emperor Voctor himself received the report while holding court in the great throne room of the Imperial Palace. The ancient ruler had expanded the empire through 4 centuries of conquest and intimidation. Never in that time had he faced a military defeat of such magnitude. 2 major engagements, 2 complete defeats, all at the hands of a single alien vessel. "Bring me Admiral Creed H immediately," the Emperor commanded, his 4 eyes blazing with fury. "I want to hear this impossible story from his own mouth." The throne room fell silent as courtiers and military officers waited for the disgraced admiral to arrive. The massive chamber was built to intimidate, with towering columns and walls covered in the battle flags of conquered worlds. Today, those symbols of victory felt hollow. Admiral Creed H entered the throne room with slow, measured steps. His ceremonial armor bore new scars from the recent battle, and his 4 eyes showed the weight of defeat. He had served the Empire faithfully for over 2 centuries, but now faced the possibility of execution for his failure. "Explain to me how a single alien ship defeated both our greatest fortress and an entire battle fleet," Emperor Voctor demanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. Kreeth stood straight despite his shame. "Your Majesty, the humans possess technology that operates beyond our understanding. Their ship can become intangible at will, allowing our weapons to pass through it harmlessly. Their own weapons can disrupt our shields at the quantum level. Humans." The Emperor's voice carried dangerous undertones. "You are telling me that we have been defeated by a species not even in our databases?" "Yes, Your Majesty. They appear to be relatively new to interstellar travel, but their technology is far more advanced than our own in certain areas." The implications were staggering. The Valkan Empire had built its power on technological superiority over the species they conquered.
Okay.
If the humans possessed better technology, the entire foundation of the empire was threatened. What do we know about their military capabilities? The emperor asked. Military Intelligence Director Nexvera stepped forward with a data tablet, Your Majesty, based on Admiral Kreith's reports and sensor data from the engagements. The humans appear to favor quality over quantity. Their single ship was able to outmaneuver and outfight our entire fleet. Weaknesses? Unknown, Your Majesty. Their phase technology appears to have no limitations that we could detect. Their weapons are precise rather than powerful, suggesting they rely on superior targeting rather than brute force. Emperor Vakhtr considered this information with growing concern. The Empire's military doctrine was based on overwhelming enemies with superior numbers and firepower. If the humans could simply ignore their attacks while precisely targeting their weaknesses, traditional tactics would be useless.
Recommendations.
He asked the assembled war council. The military leaders exchanged uncertain glances. For the first time in their history, they faced an enemy they could not defeat through conventional means. We could attempt to capture one of their ships, suggested Fleet Admiral Morkith. If we could study their technology, perhaps we could develop countermeasures. We could seek diplomatic contact, added Foreign Minister Calthera. The humans showed mercy by accepting surrender rather than destroying our forces. Perhaps they can be reasoned with. The Emperor's laugh was harsh and bitter. The Valkan Empire does not negotiate with inferior species, and we certainly do not retreat from territorial disputes. But even as he spoke, Emperor Vakhtr knew that the situation was unprecedented.
Nice.
The humans had demonstrated clear technological superiority and had shown restraint in their use of force. Continued military engagement might result in even greater disasters. Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Captain Dong Wook was dealing with his own complex situation. The successful engagements had accomplished their mission objectives, but it also created a diplomatic crisis that would require careful handling. Status report from Earth Command? He asked Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin. Admiral Park sends congratulations on the successful mission, sir. However, the diplomatic corps is expressing concern about the strategic implications of our actions. Dong-wook nodded grimly. The battles had been tactical victories, but their strategic consequences were still unfolding. Humanity had just announced its presence to a major galactic power by humiliating their military forces. Any response from the Valkan government? Multiple communications, sir. Most are threats and demands for surrender, but we are also receiving what appear to be diplomatic overtures. The captain studied the intelligence reports from their captured personnel. The Valkan Empire was a typical military dictatorship, but with more sophisticated technology than initially estimated. Their rigid command structure made them predictable, but also potentially dangerous if cornered. What about our prisoners? Dr. Choi reports excellent cooperation from the alien medical staff. Commander Nam has gathered significant intelligence about their military structure and capabilities. Dong Wook reviewed the tactical data from both engagements. The aliens had fought bravely, but predictably, relying on standard doctrine, even when it proved ineffective. Their inability to adapt quickly to new threats was both a weakness and a potential source of desperation. Prepare a comprehensive report. For Earth, he ordered. Include everything we have learned about Valkan technology, tactics, and political structure. We need to be prepared for whatever comes next. The implications of their actions were enormous. Humanity had just demonstrated that they could defeat superior numbers through technological advantage and tactical innovation. Other alien species would be watching the outcome closely. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting the approach of additional Valkan forces, reported Lieutenant Commander Yoon Ji-hai. Multiple fleets, converging from different sectors of their territory. The tactical display showed the approaching threat. Dozens of ships were moving toward their position, representing a significant portion of the Empire's military strength. The aliens were clearly mobilizing for a major campaign. Its estimated arrival time. The first wave will arrive in approximately 18 hours. Subsequent fleets will follow over the next several days. Dongwook considered the situation carefully. The Indomitable had proven it could defeat individual fleets, but engaging continuous waves of enemies would eventually overwhelm even their advanced systems. "Open a channel to the lead Valken fleet," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of an alien warship. Valken officer with the insignia of a fleet commander stared back at him with obvious hatred. "This is Captain Lee Dongwook of the Human Space Navy," he announced. "I am offering you one final opportunity to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Withdraw your forces from this system, and we will consider this matter resolved." The alien commander's response was filled with rage and threats. "You will surrender immediately, or face the combined might of the Valken Empire. We have mobilized our entire military to destroy your single ship." "I see." Dongwook's voice remained calm and professional. "In that case, let me make our position clear. Any hostile action against human forces or interests will result in immediate and overwhelming retaliation. We have demonstrated our capabilities. Do not force us to demonstrate our resolve." The transmission ended, leaving both sides to prepare for what might be the largest space battle in galactic history. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and neither side seemed willing to back down. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the future balance of power in the galaxy. The final confrontation, the largest military fleet in Valken history, assembled at the edge of the Terminus Prime system. Over 100 warships from across the Empire had gathered for what Emperor Voctor declared would be the final battle. Against the human threat, Grand Admiral Vekvar commanded the massive fleet from his flagship, the Emperor's Wrath. The enormous dreadnought was twice the size of a normal battleship, armed with weapons capable of cracking planets. Around it, lesser vessels formed a battle formation that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. "Sir, all fleet elements report ready for battle," announced his communications officer. "We have confirmed contact with the alien vessel." In the inner system, Vekvar studied the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The human ship that had humiliated the Empire's forces was now trapped. No single vessel, regardless of its technology, could stand against such overwhelming numbers. "Begin the advance," he ordered. "All ships maintain formation. We will show these aliens what happens when they challenge the might of the Valken Empire." The massive fleet began its approach toward the inner system, moving like a steel wall through the darkness of space. Each ship bristled with weapons, their combined firepower sufficient to sterilize entire worlds, aboard the Indomitable. Captain Dongwook watched the approaching armada with careful attention. The Valken had committed virtually their entire military to this engagement. Was both a demonstration of their determination and a sign of their desperation. "Final count on enemy vessels?" he asked Lieutenant Commander Yunjahai. 112 ships, sir. Multiple dreadnoughts, heavy cruisers, and supporting vessels. This represents approximately 80% of their known military strength. The numbers were impressive, but Dongwook had expected such a response. The Valken Empire had suffered two major defeats and could not afford to appear weak. They had gambled everything on this final confrontation. "Status of our own systems?" "All systems operating at peak efficiency, sir. Quantum displacement drive is fully charged. Weapons systems are ready for extended engagement." Chief Engineer Park Minho added his report. "Sir, I have implemented several improvements based on data from our previous battles. Our phase shift duration has been extended, and our targeting systems are now optimized for multiple target engagement." Dongwook nodded with satisfaction. The human approach to warfare emphasized continuous improvement and adaptation. Each battle provided lessons that could be applied to future engagements. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the Valken fleet," reported Lieutenant Kim Sujin. The main screen showed the bridge of the alien flagship. Grand Admiral Vekvar was an imposing figure even by Valken standards. His ceremonial armor was covered with the symbols of conquered worlds, and his four eyes burned with fierce determination. "Alien vessel, you are surrounded and outnumbered by more than 100 to 1, he announced. "Surrender immediately, and you will be allowed to live as prisoners of the Empire." Captain Dongwook considered his response carefully. The Valkon had assembled their entire military for this battle, demonstrating both their commitment and their fear. How he handled this moment would determine the future relationship between their species. Grand Admiral Dekvar, he replied, using the alien's name to show that humanity had been gathering intelligence. I appreciate your offer, but I must decline. However, I will make you a counterproposal. The alien commander's expression showed surprise at hearing his name spoken by the human captain. Withdraw your fleet from this system immediately, Dong-wook continued. In return, I will forget this incident and allow your forces to depart safely. This is your final opportunity to avoid catastrophic losses. This laugh was harsh and bitter. You face the entire might of the Valkan Empire, and you offer terms to us. Your arrogance will be your destruction. Very well, Dong-wook replied calmly. You have made your choice. The transmission ended, and both fleets prepared for battle. The Valkan forces spread out into an even wider formation, attempting to surround the human ship completely. The Indomitable remained motionless, apparently waiting for their approach. Sir, the alien fleet is now within extreme weapons range, reported the tactical officer aboard the Valkan flagship. All vessels report ready to engage. Grand Admiral Dekvar felt the weight of history on his shoulders. This battle would determine the future of the Valkan Empire. Victory would restore their prestige and eliminate the human threat. Defeat would mean the end of everything they had built. All ships open fire, he commanded. 112 Valkan warships opened fire simultaneously. The combined barrage was unlike anything ever seen in galactic warfare. Thousands of energy beams and projectiles filled space, creating a storm of destruction that could have reduced a moon to particles. The human ship vanished. The Indomitable had activated its phase displacement drive at the exact moment the alien weapons fired. The massive barrage passed harmlessly through empty space where the ship had been moments before. Impossible, Dekvar muttered. Where did they go? His answer came in the form of the human ship materializing directly in the center of his fleet. Formation. The Indomitable had used its quantum displacement technology not just to avoid the attack, but to teleport into the heart of the enemy formation. All ships concentrate fire on the alien vessel, Dekvar ordered desperately. But the human ship was already moving, its incredible maneuverability allowing it to weave between the larger Valkan vessels. The alien ships found themselves firing at a target that was constantly moving among their own forces, making coordinated attacks impossible. Engage nearest targets, Captain Dong-wook ordered. Disable their weapons and propulsion systems. The Indomitable's guns opened fire with devastating precision. Unlike the previous engagements, the human ship now faced multiple targets simultaneously. But its advanced targeting systems and improved weapons allowed it to engage several enemies. At once, the first Valkan ship to be targeted is a heavy cruiser that had been positioned to block the human ship's escape route. The Indomitable's main battery struck its shields with quantum-enhanced plasma, quickly overwhelming the alien defenses. Target disabled, reported Lieutenant Commander Yoon. Moving to next priority target, the human ship flowed through the Valkan formation like liquid mercury, impossible to pin down or predict. Its weapons fired continuously, each shot precisely aimed at critical systems. The aliens found their carefully planned formation dissolving into chaos as ship after ship lost its ability to fight effectively. Sir, we have lost contact with 12 vessels, reported the tactical officer on the SEFT flagship. The alien ship is systematically disabling our entire fleet. The Grand Admiral watched in horror as his carefully assembled armada was taken apart piece by piece. The human vessel moved with impossible grace and speed, staying ahead of their targeting solutions while delivering devastating attacks. How are they doing this? He demanded. They are outnumbered more than 100 to 1. The answer lay in humanity's revolutionary approach to space warfare. While the Valkan relied on massive formations and overwhelming firepower, humans had developed technology that made such tactics obsolete. The Indomitable was not just a ship, it was a demonstration of an entirely new way of fighting. Alien ship is targeting our flagship, announced the tactical officer with obvious fear. Vekvar looked at his tactical display and saw the human vessel accelerating directly toward his position. The Emperor's Wrath was the most powerful ship in the Valkan fleet, armed with weapons that could crack moons. But he had seen what those strange alien weapons could do to their defenses. "All batteries target the approaching vessel," he ordered. "Everything we have." The flagship's massive guns swiveled toward the Indomitable, unleashing a concentrated barrage that lit up space like a miniature sun. For a moment, it seemed as if nothing could survive such overwhelming firepower. The human ship rolled gracefully aside, its movement so fluid it seemed to defy physics. The barrage passed harmlessly by, striking several Valkan vessels that had been positioned behind the target. "Direct hit on the aliens," Captain Dong-wook announced calmly. "Their flagship's shields are down to 60%. The Indomitables." Return fire was precisely targeted, striking the Emperor's Wrath's shield generators with surgical accuracy. The massive ship's defenses began to flicker and fail under the quantum assault.
"How, sir?"
"Our shields are collapsing," reported the flagship's chief engineer. "The alien weapons are disrupting our defensive matrix." Grand Admiral Dekvar felt the taste of defeat in his mouth. Around him, the greatest fleet in Valkan history was being systematically dismantled by a single enemy ship. Impossible had become reality. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "All ships stand down. We surrender." The order went out across all frequencies, and one by one, the Valkan vessels powered down their weapons. The largest military engagement in the galaxy's history was over, and humanity had won.